Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Soccer's Overtime, your weekly look inside the San Diego Soccers and the Major Arena Soccer League, coming to you live on Twitch. It's a Monday night. We are a day early thanks to CONCACAF W Gold Cup action tomorrow, which will keep your able-bodied hosts away from the microphones. So we come into you a day early, but still live on Twitch at 5 p.m. with Soccer's Overtime Season 6, Episode 17. And Tony, coming off a country night embarrassment, we had to name this one All Hat, No Cattle.
Oh boy, I can't think of a more Monday than I've ever Mondayed in a while, especially after a result like that yesterday. Really wish I could be boot scooting, but none of that happening today.
More like got kicked by some boots and some butts last night in the second half. Craig Elston, Tony Sanchez here with you, your Soccer's broadcasters. Thrilled to be with you on a Monday night, nonetheless. Turns out because we lost to Kansas City, Tony, the Soccers had to adopt their colors. So now we're now red and blue. That's it. We lost to them. We have to. Actually, no. This is our new military kit.
Oh,
we'll be wearing on Sunday against Chihuahua. What do you think? Huh? Military kit.
That looks
snazzy.
Like you look like you're ready to get out there. It might need you.
Unfortunately, I've been called on for the second power play unit. We're looking for some changes on the show tonight. Country night. Cancel country night. San Diego Soccers take the worst home loss in modern team history. And I looked it up. We've got the recap ahead. So we'll get serious too. What can the Soccers do better to get back to that championship form? We've got the two biggest keys to a turnaround this season, and we'll bring that to you in analysis ahead. Meanwhile, did Kansas City save their playoff lives last night? Maybe. Should the Soccers talk trade with the Comets? Maybe. We'll talk about it, and we'll talk about more in MASL news. This weekend, last chance to dance with Chihuahua in the regular season. We've got a double match preview and a double specialty kit reveal coming up in Soccers news, although I may have spoiled one of them.
I was looking at that, and like it didn't register in my head. I'm like, is this intentional? Probably should have checked before, but I like it. I like that reveal. You know, people got some good news at the top too.
Exactly, a passive reveal, so to speak, but indeed something that something to at least tickle your mind, other than the result. And there it is. That's what we've got for you coming up tonight on Soccer's Overtime. Special thanks to everybody who is already joining us on Twitch. We've got a very nice crowd, even on a Monday. We've got a very nice crowd assembled already here this evening. We say thanks to all y'all for being here. Everyone who's listening or watching the next day on YouTube, we are equally thrilled with your presence. Please click like on the video. Please click subscribe on the San Diego Soccers page as we work our way ever so slowly up to 1,000 subscribers on our page. And of course, to everybody listening on the podcast, thanks so much. If you can give us a 5-star review on whichever podcast platform you happen to be on, Apple Podcasts, cool, Google, Spotify, whatever. Throw us that kind review. That would be great. That would be terrific. Okay, well, that's all the housekeeping out of the way, Tony. Sometimes, this job can be easy and fun, and sometimes this job can be Season 6, Episode 17. They're not all destined to be classics, and neither are the games, apparently.
No, that really just kind of is the tone that was set, by the game last night. Where honestly, I don't think I've felt that feeling inside of Pechanga Arena since the low blow that was that Chihuahua over mini game win, and just kind of that defeatedness and just the malaise just working over. And I think this is maybe a little worse because you saw it. If you were just looking at that game, paying attention, you just felt something was on the horizon, and it wasn't necessarily positive. But well, we'll talk about it.
Well, let's start with the good news. The Sockers got most of their players back for this game. They were on the field. There's Charlie Gonzalez. There's Tavoy Morgan. You can see two guys who were out a week ago that we thought would stay out. San Diego does get the 1-0 lead. Great stick-to-itive play by Brandon, and then a lovely little assist, almost behind the back type assist to get the ball to Craig Childs. Great start for 1-0. Kansas City looked a little slow, to be honest, on this defensive play. Maybe it was just unfortunate luck with the bounce there, but boy, you see this start to the match, and I'm going, okay. This is the second time in 2 weeks, by the way, that you and I were down on the floor before a match, completely fooled by the tenor of the club that was warming up. Kansas City looked dragging. They looked dead. They were tired. They had only flown in from Kansas City a couple hours before. A lot of guys with baggy eyes. Like, we looked at them saying, but it's a nice thing when you get one back. And this was legitimately a really good play. Rian Marquez getting his leg out and Lucas Souza finding him.
No, yeah, absolutely. And it took a lot of great plays by Kansas City to also mount this win, but they had every excuse to not win this game and say, you know what? It was a short turnaround. We flew in today. We're tired. We're this. For in the second quarter, as Reggett goes down, one of their best players, and it looked, serious enough to maybe not have him be in the game for the rest of the match. But they had every excuse, and they rose to the challenge. And so, again, credit to Kansas City and the Comets and everything that they did. But I don't think that the Soccer should have allowed that to happen as well.
There's the goal for 2-1, kind of sneaks through all parties involved, including getting through Boris at the end. That's one that you kind of take a note on for 2-1 as a goal that's allowed there, sets kind of a bad tone for the half. Then we have Sockers. This is another kind of hidden moment. Sockers are on the power play here, down one, but trying to equalize and couldn't. We can talk about the foul. We're seeing the argument. Phil gets a yellow card. Chad Vandegrift and Charlie got together along the bench wall. However, it began with the Sockers unable to hold and maintain possession on their power play. And Vandegrift, of course, a great defender, but nonetheless, he was working his way up the floor trying to counter, which is what led to this call. Kind of a strange call. And when the Sockers 4v4 version ends, first of all, San Diego gets a goal out of it. Tavoy scoring. That broke a 32-minute scoreless streak within the game for San Diego. Great goal here. Just classic Tavoy.
Yeah. And the pieces start coming together. You're like, I missed Tavoy. I didn't see Tavoy last match. And this is what he brings. This is the X factor that he's able to do here. And, he's been contributing a lot on the assist side, but he is lethal when it comes down to it. But he was lethal for, I'll say, a half.
Yeah. And then before the mini power, they only had 27 seconds of power play, Kansas City, at the end of that 4v4, but it turns into a goal. And 3-2. Then an incredible Charlie to Tavoy pass, 3-3. And once again, you say, well, look, we're, at this point, we're about 40 minutes into the match, almost 40 minutes into the match. It's 3-3. It's been kind of a stumble around. We've seen this before from San Diego, and then it gets hot and it gets turned around. You get a little flurry of goals and it turns around. And it was pretty crazy to me that the flurry of goals happened. It happened for the team in red. Here they come. 4-3, tough play. Guerrero Pino goes down. Right, though, in between Charlie and Ruggles, the pass to get to Ramon Palmer for the tap-in, the walk-it-in goal, 4-3. Tough play. It is a tough play, but it's kind of like there's 4 Sockers defenders there, and everyone is looking at each other to make the play. Then a quick restart. Team isn't ready. There they go. 5-3. Neither one of those are considered necessarily like massive breakdowns, but these are team issues here. Just slow off it, fooled on the restart. We've seen it happen against the Sockers. It happens to the Sockers. Still shouldn't be devastating. 5-3. This is devastating.
Yeah.
Straight turnover. instantly converted into a goal. Pardo was the one who turned it over, put it right to a red foot. It goes right back to Souza. Well done by Kansas City. And the Sockers are left to see it, down by 3.
And you really start to see exactly the lapses in judgment, not necessarily just on the field, on the play, but just the tone that this game took, where there was a lot of looking over to the refs. There's a lot of misconcentration and just not directing it into enough energy into maybe being better on attack and being better when in front of goal. Again, not to say again that Kansas City didn't really play a good game, but as you mentioned, those couple of goals earlier on with people just looking around. Granted, for a chance here, and this is a great goal. Let me just say that this is a fantastic penalty shot, and we'll get to this. But overall, it just set the tone for errors across the board, on and off the field, I'd say.
0.700 for Craig Giles, his second goal of the match, 475th goal of his career. It's a penalty kick because Nicolau Nato. I'm muted? I'm not muted. Are you muted? Okay, everything's good? All right. Just want to make sure. Now we get to the critical moment of the match. First of all, good save by Neto. Lennis gets his hand up for a handball. The call is made. The call is challenged. The call is confirmed. It is a handball on Lennis. There you see the arms extended. The ball comes off his chest first, but then hits his extended arm. Could have theoretically gone into the net from there, so it becomes a penalty kick. We will talk about this more as soon as the highlight reel is over, but this is Charlie Gonzalez instead of Craig Giles, who we just saw moments ago finish a penalty kick against the backup, Ejimadu. This one is against Neto, obviously a bigger target. And before we rip him too hard, this is a great shot that misses by a millimeter. You're muted.
I know it's this too much country barbecue or Malay. I don't even know, but
country night.
But yeah, no, Charlie, again, not a bad shot taker at all. And you would trust him any other night, but you have Craig Giles there. And I know we'll get to that, but it's a game of inches and centimeters. And definitely the margins were small, but Kansas City took advantage, as you see there.
I don't know. Can we back up just to look at this one more time? Because when I watched this back, I just felt like, and here we go through. This is the missed shot by Charlie. This is perfect. We can just run it from here. We've got the opportunity. Sockers pull the keeper right there. That's got to be a goal. That's got to be 6-5. And now it's just a breakdown. It's a pass back. It's around Boris, but it's not in Boris. And then Marquez is able to just pass around him and put the ball in the net. I can't blame that one on Boris. It was the ball that was sent back to him on that play. And then, of course, the Sockers go for the 6th attacker, and, it's just 2 goals against. And instead of 7-4, it's 8-4. And now, thanks to Zach Reggett, it's 9-4, which sent me to the history books, meaning the MASL website, and going back year by year. And it's pretty easy looking for home losses for the Sockers, Tony, because there's so few of them over the course of the last 10 years. And so it didn't take me long to find out that not only was this the worst regular season home loss since 2009, modern San Diego Soccer's history. Keep in mind, the Sockers won their first 40 home games in modern franchise history. They had a 25-match home streak that was broken last year. So again, the home losses have been few and far between. And of the losses, I believe it's now 9 home losses in the MASL at home. 6 1-goal losses and then a 2. And then you've got the 2 losses this year. 5-1 to Chihuahua, -4, and 9-4 to Kansas City, -5. The only other time in the last 15 years that the Sockers have lost by 5 goals at home was the 2016 Pacific Division Finals. Soles de Sonora won 10-5 against San Diego. That was a playoff loss. Nonetheless, it was just as bad or worse, 10-5, 9-4. You can make your choice which one of those awful scores you'd prefer to embrace as your favorite. But, scurrying to the history books, last year was the worst regular season loss the Sockers have had in modern history, 10-4 up in Ontario to the Strikers. And now this year, 9-4 at home, the worst home loss statistically in Sockers history.
And I think the morale is also something to keep an eye here because, last year that 10-4 was something that jump started the Sockers into really looking at themselves and saying, "Oh, let's not make that happen again." But this is not the first time this happens this season with this level of the effort. That eye test of the San Diego Sockers on the field is not a positive one, and I really do think that overall this is a team aspect. It's a team game. I was sharing with you what I really like about team plays is that everybody is going at the same direction at the same time, and it feels like at times this team is disjointed from the bench to the defense to the midfield to the attacking. It's not smooth. It's not silky smooth, and that's usually what we give attributes to the San Diego Sockers for being at all times. And maybe it's just not that right now.
Yeah. There's a number of directions to go. Let me start with one that's really basic. This is classic sports 101. The Sockers have very little pressure on them right now as a club. They came into this match 14-2. They came into the match with an 11-point lead on their closest opponent. At that moment, they had 2 losses. Their closest opponent had 5. Seems like a very difficult gap to bridge. San Diego has not clinched the top of the Pacific, but they're not far away. They could have seen a world quite easily where they won all 4 home matches on this homestand, and by the end of it, they had the West wrapped up. Like, very much a possibility, especially if they beat Chihuahua next week. So, from a San Diego standpoint, there wasn't a ton going into this match. It was just a matter of getting healthy, finding some continuity. And I really think a lot of the emphasis of the week was on health. It was on rehabbing injured players, getting injured players back into practice, getting their fitness up, getting a level of form. Well, we're not worried about the form. We're worried about getting the players back onto the floor. And major credit to Paul Savage and to the Sockers training staff, to Dr. Corey and to Anne Marie and Kara and everybody else who worked so hard to get the boys healthy. Everyone but Leo and Costa back out on the floor on Sunday. And, Leo's a ways away. Costa, of course, is still working back from the broken wrist. He's still got the cast on, so you got to wait for that cast to get off for him to be able to get back on the floor. But it was a healthy team. But, Tony, one thing I've learned over the years and just over time, and sport by sport, it's not just indoor. It's one thing to be healthy enough to play. It's another to be healthy enough to kick ass and to dominate. And when you're worried about your health, when you're playing kind of with one back of mind thought, am I healthy? Okay, I'm running. Do I feel good? I'm running now. Okay, can I go full speed? That kind of monitor, right? Having that filter, that monitor in your head, playing at your absolute best in situations like this, very, very difficult. Tavoy, after a slow start, got 2 goals. Charlie had the lovely assist. Drew Ruggles did not have a good game. Pee Wee, classic Pee Wee, took some fouls, got smashed to the floor a few times. Flavio still a little bit off, not quite there yet, not quite in sync with this club. And so when you have that, just even the slightest bit of tentativeness, even the slightest amount of question, are we all the way back? Are we 90% back? Are we 100% back? I think when you've got another team on the other side that is 100% committed to getting stuck in, to going as hard as they possibly can, you get a circumstance like we saw Sunday night at Pechanga Arena.
Yes, and that's apparent when you see Guerrero Pino. And that moment, I kind of took that step back and reminded myself that that injury list after the Empire match was extremely lengthy, and not just for a scratch here and there. These are, excuse me, these are injuries that are lingering and they take time to rehab. And again, great credit to the San Diego Soccer's medical staff. But when Guerrero Pino went down, that's just a reminder of like, no, he's playing not at 100%. He's playing hurt. And for him to go down in a heap like he did in that moment, it wasn't in the first quarter when you're not really warmed up into the game. It was right in the throes of it. And at that point, as a player, the last thing you think of is what's hurting, what's ailing you until it's too late or until it's really unbearable. And that's a moment that could have potentially been scary, but a stark reminder that this team, like you said, has a ways to go in terms of being at their absolute best. I agree. With Leo, with Gabi Gol, everybody's this team is incredibly different. It's better. There's movement. There's not a lot of the workload is spread out more evenly. We saw Escoto had to do a lot of heavy lifting coming out of his illness, and again, this is a lot of context for a team that's clinched and a team that's at the top currently, and it's again a marker of that standard. But the thing that we have these conversations and we're kind of like looking over and seeing this is not the soccer's best is because we know what's out there. We know what Chihuahua's out there. We know a Monterrey could potentially be out there. If this is happening in the middle of the season where we don't usually see the Soccers give up these games or give up these points or be in these situations, then you know I don't think that this is a very interesting season altogether. I'll say it's not
Yeah.
ideal at all.
Yeah, it's interesting in that sense of the old Confucius curse, may you live in interesting times. It's very interesting. Not all of the things that are interesting are good, but they're fascinating nonetheless. So yeah, I mean, you can look at these factors as part of the overall picture, a big money word for you, the gestalt of what happened at Pachanga Arena on Sunday night. You've got one team, Kansas City. Like, we're going to get to MASL news and break down the math a little bit more. But like, Kansas City has a narrow path to the playoffs. It's actually not guaranteed. There's nothing they can do. If Baltimore wins out, there's nothing they can do. If Baltimore gets all 27 points available to them, there's nothing they can do. Now, the odds that the Blast are going to do that are really low because Baltimore has some very tough road matches ahead. That I'm skipping ahead a little bit in the menu. But if KC doesn't win this match on Sunday, they are down to kind of 5 must wins in a row. And at a bare minimum, 4 must wins in a row. The Soccers absolutely not in the same mental headspace last night. San Diego may be more worried about their health than they were about the match itself. And one thing we're learning pretty starkly this season, Tony, is that this is not a roll out the balls and dominate soccer squad. They do not have that level of connectedness and cohesiveness to just roll out the balls and blow out any random opponent.
And that really has a lot of those factors that go into it. But even then, like, I think the best Soccers that we saw was potentially a stretch of 1 week where they barely squeezed out in a Tacoma game. And overall, just we haven't seen that top peak that we were essentially promised with this roster of returning Soccers, adding Drew Ruggles, adding Gabigol. Yeah. So it's I don't know. I don't want to be so necessarily negative, but just be realistic. And I think the realistic notion that, yeah, this race for the Shield is kind of said and done. There's nothing really for San Diego to play. Let's go ahead and have that mental note of, okay, let's go ahead and try to be our best. We see Gabi out there. He's still running out because he can. He doesn't have a leg injury. It's a wrist injury. He can go ahead and stay fit. So that's going to be interesting to see when he does come back, if it's an immediate impact, which I'm pretty sure it will be. But at the end of the day, this is not your mama. This is not your daddy. This is not your grandpa. This is San Diego Soccers of now this season. So it's a matter of resetting those parameters, I feel, and just really focusing on how to be the best during the playoffs.
One thing that looking back at the match once again, I think you and I on the match broadcast last night were mostly praising Kansas City and the Comets coming in a desperate situation. It's a Comets team, which we'll talk more about, that's in some obvious transition right now in terms of their two most recognizable, two most famous players on the club, both being away from the club, apparently a power struggle or division or whatever it is. Blue Testament can cover all of that stuff. But those guys aren't there. And the team had been losing and losing and losing without Leo Gibson and without John Sosa. So for them to put the effort together that they did last night as neutrals up in the broadcast booth, I think we mostly wanted to praise Kansas City. You may watch back the match broadcast and hold this in stark contrast to last Tuesday, when I felt like I was down the Soccer's throat much of the second half of the match, or maybe from the second quarter until the end of the match. And it was a similar feel in some ways, in terms of almost just like gloomy Gus soccer. Things are happening, but they're not working out for you on the floor. But also Tuesday felt like they came out kind of sleepy boy. Maybe they did again on Sunday. I don't know. I mean, it was 1-1 at the half. But nonetheless, I think Kansas City deserves a lot of credit. I think that's important. I think that more than ripping the Sockers like, oh, did they care or effort? I think we gave you those parameters, which you want to avoid, but you just can't. They didn't have as much to play for as Kansas City. They were probably more worried about their legs and their health than they were about the opponent. And they got it taken to them. They got it absolutely taken to them by a team that I know the Sockers think they're better than in terms of the Kansas City Comets.
Yeah, and they wanted it more. It was very apparent that even though they were tired, they were everything, their situation, they wanted that game more. And the Sockers were put in another situation that they're not really familiar with. I know we can talk about just that sixth attacker situation where, honestly, this season, when they do go into the sixth attacker, it's not a place that the Sockers find themselves usually in. And so you can tell it's clunky, it's rusty, the passes aren't smooth. Cesar's on there, Cerda with a goalkeeper kit, but it feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds on him because it's not the same. Y'all usually liken it when in wrestling, when a wrestler puts on a referee shirt, if they get pushed, they're down for 10 minutes.
Right, that's it.
When an outdoor player puts on that goalkeeper kit, they weigh down. Like it's a mental thing, but those situations are sometimes something that they don't find themselves in. They don't have that practice in. They don't have. They don't seem to really know what to do or how to operate in those situations. And this is something that they're going to have to get better at if this is how the rest of the season is going to go in. Because if you're in Chihuahua and you're a sixth attacker, we've seen it already. It didn't work. They got crushed as well. Cesar Cerda gave up a couple of errors over there as well. These are the things they have to work on in general. You can't just not work on penalties at the end or shootouts at the end of training because, it's probably not going to happen. It can happen. So you better be proficient at it at least.
I do want to get to, and this was in the menu, by the way, it's in the chat as well, but we were getting to this at this point either way, which is the single thing that we were the most critical of. I was kind of long preambling to get there, Nick and Key in the chat. Because I was saying mostly we praised the Comets, mostly we didn't criticize the Sockers. I think the only moment that we were really critical of the Sockers on Sunday evening was when it was 6-4 penalty kick and Craig Childs did not take the kick and it was given to Charlie Gonzalez, who, I want to be perfectly clear, is absolutely 100% capable of taking a PK, taking a shootout. If he was on many other teams, he would be the obvious number one choice to take a penalty or a shootout. It just so happens that he is on the same roster as the greatest PK taker the Sockers have ever had, and maybe other than Bronco Segota ever could have, in Craig Childs. So, this is not a bad shot. I thought if it was the head coach's decision, that it was a deeply, deeply, deeply questionable decision, because you're taking the ball off your captain's foot. and you're putting it on another player's foot, and the lack of confidence, the anti-confidence that could come from a moment just like we saw of the ball going bar down instead of going bar down and in, can have a literally game-ending effect. And I do believe that play fundamentally ended the game for San Diego. If they score there, I think they've got a great chance to come all the way back and win. So after the match, I asked Craig directly and on the record what was the situation and why didn't he take the second penalty. And the answer I received is an important one. It was Craig's decision. It was Craig Childs' decision. He had the ball. He had the penalty. That was the coach's call, was for Craig Childs to take the penalty. However, Craig is a leader. He's been the captain a long time, and he's got the type of latitude with our coaching staff that goes above and beyond an average player. And Craig told me that he believed that it was the right decision to give Charlie the shot because he was sure, A, that Charlie would make the shot, which is confidence in your teammate. And B, he thought that would light up Charlie for the rest of the match because he hadn't seen the ball go into the net. He did have that lovely assist for Tavoy in the third quarter, but Craig's thinking was that not only would this lead to 6-5, but it would lead to 6-6 and 7-6 and 8-6 and San Diego taking over the match because Charlie is kind of lit up. He's brought up to 10 by the moment. So it was a very unselfish decision. It was a very it's a decision based on belief. It's a decision based on instilling belief. So it's coming from nothing but positive ground. Very, very difficult to criticize Craig Childs for making that decision in the moment. Analytics boy can say it's the wrong choice and be correct in saying that. Craig Childs should take every penalty the Sockers have ever, like Nick Pereira takes every penalty that the Stars have ever. Like he doesn't just lay one off to Juice Cox because he wants to heat up Juice Cox. He just takes every single penalty and then he tries to collect the MVP award at the end of the year. It's cool. I get it. But Craig should take every penalty for San Diego, but his reasoning, what are you going to say other than, okay, I get it.
Yeah, and I really hope this is a learning experience for everybody involved, right? From Phil to Craig to Chadley, is you live by it, you die by it, and that's exactly what happened. Like Craig thought he was going to go ahead and be that leader and say, "Here you go. This is going to bring up the entire team and it's going to fire everybody up," but also take into consideration the repercussions of it and better be ready to then bounce back and bring your team back up from that moment. And so that's something that I don't think that Sockers were necessarily equipped with altogether, was being able to have that possibility in your mind of, what if this doesn't go in? What if this doesn't go 6-5? What are we going to do? Is there enough time? Yes, absolutely. But because of the headspace that everybody found themselves in after that penalty miss, it obviously it went to review. So then you're just kind of standing there realizing, well, this might be not a no goal. And if it doesn't, that's a double whammy in a sense, where it's not only did you miss it at the first time, they went and checked it. And, 100% you missed it. That's on you. But again, it's being able to bounce back from those moments. And that's a championship mentality, to be able to know how to navigate those situations on the field, regardless of any and every call going back. I don't even know who I heard kind of point at the referee. We were too distracted by the referees. I don't think the referees had anything to do with this match. The Sockers have been in plenty of matches where the referees had something to do with the match and the result, and overall rose above and moved forward with the win. But I don't think that's the case here. And again, I hope this is a total team learning experience altogether, and just they hope to get better from here on out.
There have been matches this year where the Sockers have fallen behind and really didn't look good. At Chihuahua, home versus Chihuahua, obviously last night, did not look good. I thought when they came from behind in Tacoma, which quite frankly could have, should have, would have been another loss on the schedule for San Diego. They absolutely should have lost that game. They didn't. It's ridiculous. It's kind of a miracle that they didn't lose that game, but that's all but everything in terms of their division lead is that win up at Tacoma, those 2 points. So that made me think, okay, we've turned a corner. The way that they gutted out a victory in Ontario after being so shorthanded. But there's also a fallout factor. And I know it's a week later. I do know it's a week later. So you'd say, oh, it's a week later. It's a video game. Everyone's back up. Green bars, 100%. Plug them in. They're refreshed. But last week, not only did the Sockers play 3 matches in 6 days, but the second 2 matches, they ran in twos the whole match, every position except forward. And then by the end, forward too. By the end of last Sunday's match, it was 3 defenders for 2 positions and only 1 break rotation out of every 3 shifts. And that's going to have an impact on a team as well. They're not going to have the full tank even a week later. And I think we saw that. It's kind of like, the pitcher who throws a no-hitter but throws 136 pitches. And then, he got full rest. Oh, he gave him an extra day's rest going into his next start. And he still gave up 6 runs in the first 3 innings. What's going on? I thought he was fresh, and I do think that has a part to it. So all this, we're about to get into, to me, 3 things that are structural that the Sockers can and should improve upon, one of which they may not be able to, but the other 2 they can and should improve upon to get to that championship level this year, to be able to win the championship this year. The other things we're talking about, these are kind of explainers, however you want to put it, for what's happening right now, like for what's happening the last week or 2, and the last 4 points being dropped off the side of the ship for the San Diego Sockers. But let's talk about the things, I think that the things that are real and concrete. The first you can't change, Tony. The first you can't change. There's no Sockers 2. I think it's just very clear and stark that last year, when the Sockers had depth issues, you could reach down and you've got guys like Pollo and Irvin Mojica and Ismael Rojo that are waiting. Some of those guys were visa'd, but you had guys, even Callahan last year at a Sockers 2 level. You had players that you could pull up that have been coached by Rene Ortiz, that have been wearing the Sockers shield, that have been playing the matches. And you could have a little bit of confidence that you could integrate those players. Juan Gonzalez was playing for Sockers 2 for a good portion of last year. And now, when you get past the first 16 guys for San Diego, you've got when you have as many as 2 injuries, right? Leo Costa hurt. Now you've got Juan Salazar in the lineup. He was a college draft pick. He played the last college season for Point Loma Nazarene. He has no indoor experience. You've got kids like Julian Garcia and Edward Willette and Quentin Ivey. These guys were at open tryout. These are open tryout players. These aren't coming up through the system guys. So when it's time for them to play, Max Rodriguez, 3rd round pick in the MASL draft, he came out of the combine as well. These are all good kids with great hearts that have hopefully a bright future with San Diego. But my point is that today, when it's time for them to play, the choice is instead to have the veterans who are older with older legs run in 2 and put even more of a drain on the battery, so to speak. So that lack of depth for San Diego this season, that's not going to change between here and the end of the year. Even if they made a move and tried to add somebody, they're not going to be able to add the 3 or 4 guys of depth that they had last year that you could count on and call up in a pinch to get the job done.
Yeah, the Sockers DNA just doesn't seem to be there at the bottom, right? Where you usually have and can go into younger, fresher legs. Because even last year, right? These veterans that we see this year that we always, say this grizzled veteran is doing everything that they can. They were doing it last year, and last year they were getting injured as well. Like that fatigue was in there too. And going down to the well to get those M2 players to get that, because they were also match fit. Those players are also match fit. They know how to go. No slight on Salazar or anybody who's coming into it, but you really need to have the players in the lab, and you really have to cook them up together. And That's just not happening. And you have also over in Baja California, that was another avenue where, for M2 for players to come in. That's not a thing this year. And it's really just I think last year they got lucky because they had M2 and they had good quality in M2. I saw Jason Payne being brought up, he brought the Payne train in M2 last year, and he's not available to bring the Payne train to San Diego. He's doing his thing over over east. And
Yeah, he went to St. Louis. I think they released him, but I have no idea where he is. He's in the wind.
he's somewhere in there. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, no, this M2 situation, I don't think people put enough thought into it or stock, but that's incredibly valuable to have as an organization. So, nothing we can do about that now. It's the middle of the season. We're about to end the regular season, and you got what you got, and that can be part of the load management strategy that's happening and saying, hey, maybe run at 60-70% for this match. Is it going to be enough? Maybe. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes you allow 9, and that's just the nature of the game this time.
Alan Crespo. I'm just remembering back in my Alan Crespo, another M2 guy that's a Monterey player. He's starting for Monterey. Monterey is starting guys who are soccer's players on loan that are killing the league. Ismael Rojo might win Defender of the Year, which we always knew. We always knew was in him. Like, everyone knew that was in him, that ability, if he was on a team where he was allowed to eat and not on a team where he was the sixth guy, in his position group. So that's frustrating. And listen, that's not going to change. So, even if you had the same personnel, you would have games every week where Max Rodriguez and Edward Led and Garcia and Ivy et al. Were running and playing and gaining that experience. And they just don't have that. That was a budget situation for San Diego. Our money's in the arena. It's going to the arena. A lot of things changed for this team to make sure that arena was finished being built this year. Some of them are hurting them on and off the field. It's part of a, risk calculation to get to 2024 fall. And the Sockers are going to get there, but this was part of the risk calculation that's not working out on the floor. Now, point 2, defense. The Sockers are allowing more than a goal per match, more on average than they did the past couple of years. San Diego this season has conceded 90 goals. So 90 goals, got my little calculator here, 17 games, 5.3 goals per match. The Sockers have been at 4 and 4.1 the last 2 years. Last season in 24 matches, the Sockers conceded 99 goals. The year before that, in 24 matches, the Sockers conceded 98 goals. So right now, with 7 matches to go, they would have to allow 9 goals total in 7 matches in order to match last year's defensive output. Obviously, they're on a pace to allow 125 goals this year. So the defense has taken a significant step back in 2023-24. And it is frustrating because the defense did not take a step back in terms of quality of personnel. In fact, Cesar Cerda and Mitchell Cardenas had their contracts extended in this offseason. Drew Ruggles was signed to a free agent contract. Pee Wee had his contract extended. Pino is still here. These are all players other than Juan Manuel Rojo. And we have talked about his situation and how he did not get himself north of the border in time. Frankly, I think Juan Manuel Rojo's impact on this team was offensive and not very much in terms of defensive goal prevention. I think he was the counterattack king for San Diego, not the goal prevention king. The goal prevention kings are here. Mitchell, Pino, Cerda, Pee Wee. And no knock on the man, a player I love, a man, a person I've known and am friends with, have known deeply. These are just numbers. Okay, these are numbers. Boris Pardo right now has the lowest save percentage of his entire MASL career. His rookie season with the Wichita B-52s, he had a .001 higher save percentage than he does right now at 665. His goals against average is the third highest of his career. And the numbers are pretty similar to 2019-20. And this year is starting to remind me of 2019-20. And the Sockers didn't have 2019-20 end poorly for them because it ended poorly for everyone. COVID shut down the season.
Yeah.
But at the moment that it was shut down, the Sockers were 16-5, and it was very clear that they were not going where they wanted that year. And there was disconnection in the back, and it was tough. And Boris's numbers weren't quite where they are this year. They were a little bit better, but they're within shouting distance of this year compared to his three goalkeeper of the year awards in the past 5 seasons. So always in defense goalkeeping sports, the goalkeeper's numbers are a reflection of the team's work. And also the goalkeeper's work, but also the team's work. So there's always blame to go around. There's always praise to go around. And every member of the defensive group right now has to reevaluate what they're doing because the level is lower for these great players than it has been in past years. The numbers are there. They are stark. And you can say, I am still every inch the player that I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, and I will believe each and every one of you. You could pound me in the chest and grab me by the lapels and tell me I'm still the same guy. And I say, yes, you're the same guy. Why are we giving up 1.2 more goals per game than we were the past 2 years? What can we do to fix this?
And you look at the numbers and the amount of players that have been playing together, essentially. Mitchell Cardenas at the beginning of the season had a couple of weeks off as well due to injury. We've seen that Drew came into the season also carrying an injury as well. And so he's been trying to get back onto this level. And he was honest when he spoke about wanting to be in the Sockers. And this is the standard of defensive soccer here in the MASL. And that's true. That's the bread and butter. So what happens when your bread and butter is not breading and buttering? You have to go ahead and make a change. You have to either switch the mentality of saying, okay, well, maybe we're not that defensive stronghold that we have been. Let's work a little bit more on the midfield. Let's try to outscore the other team. But the outscoring aspect just isn't happening because of the disconnect also up front. So again, I will always defend a goalkeeper when I can. And I agree with that. A goalkeeper's numbers are a reflection of the entire team. But looking at the time that he had off as well, does that mean that time that he had because of that red card, that suspension, did that affect his gameplay coming in? Perhaps. Was he a little bit cold when he came back? He did well. He was very sick, but he still did well. And like I said, I see the Boris Pardo that I always see out there hustling, doing his best, just giving 110% at all times. But I also saw a team that saw Xavier on it that did pretty well as well and held their own. And again, this isn't to start any sort of narrative of, it should be Xavier. Maybe we should try to test them. No, this is through and through Boris Pardo's team, Boris Pardo's position. And until otherwise, stated, this is going to be how it's going to go for the rest of the season, at least. But those questions have to be asked, and it's only going to be answered by the man in the mirror, and that's the players themselves, and then come together in a giant group mirror and say, all right, guys, what are we going to do here? Where are we getting hurt? Where are we getting exposed? Is it these mental lapses when it comes to playing out the back? Because they like to play out the back. That's always what they do. They build, they wait, they're patient, but they're maybe being a little bit too patient. Maybe they're holding on to the ball. Maybe they need to secure the ball a little bit more in that transition, because there have been a lot of mistakes in the transition from defense to the midfield. And that's what's been causing a lot of these mistakes. We saw it at Chihuahua. Yeah, it's a small field, but they kept happening. These things keep happening, and it's a pattern. And I don't want to blame anything specifically, but once you start noticing a pattern, you have to solve the root cause of it and not say, well, the symptoms are this, the symptoms are that. You can treat the symptoms all you want, but you're still going to get your butt handed to here and there. And that's just the root of it.
If there's one thing specifically in terms of play that I would discuss, I would discuss actually an offensive aspect of the defense, which is getting out of the back. I think the Sockers at times have struggled to get out of the back. We saw in that highlight reel, obviously goal 6 was a direct turnover from the goalkeeper's foot to concede a goal. But we've seen a number of times, and I'll tell you this, man, I've been to, I don't know how many 100 soccer's practices I've been to, but almost all of them, 90% of them start with possession, which is everybody is out on the field, and you start with, you can only have a touch or then 2 touches, and then it's called all in. You can have as many touches as you want, but it's getting out of those spots. There's 20 guys in the defensive midfield, and you got to beep, 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 and get the ball out of there. But also those drills are done at a certain speed, not at this half speed. They're all competitive. They're all out there, but it's kind of, and I'm seeing the plays out of the back kind of being played at the speed of the possession drill. It's moving. It's coming over here. Now it's going over there. Now it's going over here. But when a team comes in, and Casey did it a few times, and just, and Empires did it a few times, just jumps you, just gets in you. Chihuahua obviously was in their shirt all 60 minutes of the matches they've been playing. All of a sudden that goes from being, oh yeah, we can possess to, I'm in the heat. I'm in the blender. I've got a guy on my back. I've got a guy on my hip. I'm fighting. It's this hard just to get out of the back. And then you get those turnovers. You get those careless passes. You get those balls that are just kind of punted into possession for the other team. And we've seen teams be able to possess on the Sockers, more at home than I think we've seen in a long, long, long time. And part of me says a little bit of it is that it's when you've got the ball in the back, you've got to get it up the field. You've got to get it to your skill guys. Not that the defenders aren't skilled, but you got to get it up to the scorers. And sometimes we're kind of noodling in the back and get caught in it, get caught in a press as a result. But in the end, when we talk about defense, what needs to change? What should change? My answer is nothing. This is the group you invested in. This is the group you built, you bought, and you re-upped all the way across the board. You're not going to make a change in net. You're not going to make a change of primary on-ball defender, off-ball defender. Juan Manuel Rojo isn't walking through that door. And are you telling me that there were, even if you traded for Robert Palmer, like, are you 100% sure that he's stepping in and he's going to do better than Cardenas, or he's going to do better? I mean, maybe he's doing great this year, but like there are very, very few people in the league that you would say, well, we just need to add this guy and take one of these guys out. Who are you going to take out? Pee Wee, Ruggles? Like, Ruggles would have been the number 1 defender free agent in the league last year. You added him to the group. What, are you going to get rid of him? Like, what are we saying here? To me, this is simple. Oh, and maybe Susan Barber's right. Maybe this is Mitchell's fault. He cut his hair. I mean, I was upset when I saw that. I'll be honest, I was upset when I saw that.
Who's that guy?
But, yeah, like, what? Wrong hair. Get a wig for Friday. Just buy a wig. No, nothing needs to change. The group needs to do better. This is our group, and they need to play better.
But what if it's just for now, Craig? Like, that's the frustrating part, right? Because we know they can do better. We know what they're capable of, even at half speed at times. And it seems like they're not even at that half speed. And they are going at that, okay, well, we can turn it on later. We can come back. We're the Sockers. We can do it. And, all right, they got a couple goals on us. It's not over. It's not over until it's like, oh, wait, it's over. We need to go ahead and up the tempo, up the ante. And it's already too late. You really can't get going. And it's speaking about, starting those plays out the back at that pace, at that practice pace, at that drill pace. That's exactly what happens when they transition from the midfield over into the attack. They are at that molasses pace where they're looking and, yeah, that's an option over there. I have this option over here. And then you just end up overthinking it. And instead of being lethal and boom, directly to the point, bang, 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 goal, you're just overthinking things of, What if I go over here? Now let's just pass it back. Okay, let's just pass to the side. Lateral pass, lateral pass, lateral pass. In that, you create an error. The other team is being patient. Kansas City did this very well. They are very patient, and boom, they'll strike back, and you don't have an answer for that at that point.
All right. We talked about the depth of the club. That's a structural issue that will not change. We talked about the defense of the club. That is a positional group that will not change. It just needs to play better. This is the most obvious, most concrete, most glaring, alarming problem for the San Diego Sockers. And by the way, honorable mention, Susan just put up discipline. Our discipline has been pretty
Agreed.
Pretty shit this year, straight up. It's been pretty bad. Way too many yellow cards. Way too many yellow cards this year. But that ain't it either. Because we've been stupid in past years too. The power play. The power play is a friggin' embarrassment. I'm not going to go full explicit tab, okay? In England, you can say
dump button.
Yeah, in England, you can say the S word all the time. It's no problem. The power play is a friggin' embarrassment. It is at 27% after Sunday night. It is 13th of 13 teams in the MASL. 13th of 13 teams. And the Sockers have 10 power play goals for, and they have 10 power play goals against. They are dead even, 0 plus minus on special teams. By comparison, last year, the Sockers were plus 12 in special teams. 2 years ago, they were plus 21 in special teams. This year, dead even. That's terrible. Our buddy Eddie Trujillo, who's also in the chat, put together something very quick. This is just one clip from last night compared to a clip from the finals in 2022. But it shows something that is, I mean, you're going to be able to see it clear as day. This is from last night. And as the ball gets to Tavoy, take a look at where Brandon is. And look at that wide open, yawning path to the net. Yes, Berto Palmer is in between. Neto's there. It's not an obvious passing angle, but you've got the dummy through Felipe as an option. But Brandon is way out high watching. Now keep it rolling. Take a look at a set piece, but still not dissimilar. Where's Brandon? He's keeping an eye on things. He's getting to that back of the net. He's getting to that back post. Here, with that option, where does it go? Too long. Too long on the toe, first of all. Too long on the toe here. Everything is too slow in that clip that you just saw. Now, Callan asks a great question. Does Leo's absence hurt the power play unit? Of course. Does Costa's absence hurt the power play unit? Of course. Of course. Those are your two best ball movers, playmakers. So you can be like that. And I'm not that Callan is being like that. But I'm just saying you could simply chalk it up to injury. Go, well, yeah, maybe your two best playmakers aren't out there. But guys, the five the Sockers are putting on the floor, almost every single team in the league would take from a talent standpoint as their power play unit. Almost every team in the league would take this group, the talent that's on the floor. And we've seen them go to even lesser versions of this and having Serta and Ruggles out there and Christian and have more success than what we've seen on the power play. This is what needs to change for this team. And I want to be clear and stark when I say this. If the San Diego Sockers aren't working on the power play at least a half an hour every practice, Okay, 20 minutes. Every practice, it is malpractice. It's the definition. Malpractice, bad practice. Okay. They need good practice. This team needs to take this seriously. And that means getting everybody into a video room with every beep, beep, beep power play that this team has had, every single one of them, the 10 that worked and the 27 that didn't, and go through those plays and watch it and then drill it and 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 drill it again. Because you know what I see? What I see is the lack of spark. I see the lack of that quickness, that sharpness that comes from an instinctiveness, that comes from practice, that comes from knowing instinctively, I need that ball to move. I need that ball to go. I can't hold the ball over here. I can't take that touch. I know it's going to get bogged down because it's gotten bogged down every day that we try it in practice. You need snap, snap, snap. Like as soon as that ball got to the corner, it needed to be going laterally. When you see one touch movement on the power play, then you know a team is working. Right there in the corner, if Craig was on the one touch, the pass is open across the free throw line to Felipe. Right there, but it's not there because you're taking that second touch. It's split second. What changes is drilling. What changes is having the repetition. Well, why aren't they doing it? Exactly. Why aren't they doing it? That's the question that needs to be asked of this coaching staff. And guess what? I'm here on the show asking it. Okay. This needs to happen. I know the players watch this back. They don't get to set the practice agenda, but maybe it's time that they're knocking on that door. And if any coach gets, you need to practice the power play every day. It's ridiculous that it's not, hasn't happened to this level. And it's obviously going to cost this team a championship. If it's not improved, it's obviously going to cost this team a power play not scored in a game that winds up going to overtime that they lose. And if that's me being negative, no, that's me wanting this team to win the cup this year. They've got to dedicate to being the offensive stars that I know they are. And that means scoring on half your power plays. 27%. Let me tell you, Uzi Tayu was at the match last night. And I don't know why he's not in Texas. He's been around here a while. But Uzi was at the game last night. When I told him and he looked it up on his phone, he couldn't believe it. He literally could not believe that the team was 27%. He said, when we came in here in Ontario, what we would say is, you simply cannot give up a penalty because the Sockers are going to score. They're going to score every time, so you can't give up a penalty. And haven't I said that on the show too, Tony? When 100%. You score 50% on the power play, teams know they can't foul you. Teams know they can't use physicality and getting in your legs and getting stuck in and fouling the beep out of you and getting you mad and getting you irritated as a strategy, because you're just going to calmly go +1, +2. And when you're +2, when the Sockers are +2 on you, how the hell are you going to win the game? Trying to win the rest of the game at even strength or behind strength at -2. You're not going to do it. So we see teams be physical with the Sockers. We're seeing teams get up in their skirt. We're seeing teams press the Sockers up and down the field. And the Sockers, who lead the league in power play opportunities, lead the league in blue cards drawn, they have 10 power play goals, 27%. It must change. Must change. And unless it changes, nothing's changing.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it goes down to it. And even in simpler layman terms in Spanish, no se ve el producto de gallina, the product of the hen or los huevos, in a sense, right? That's something that's in those moments, I don't necessarily see that spark in that play, right? Yeah, everybody's taking that extra second, that extra touch, that extra everything. But even beyond that, if you take a look at the off the ball movement or the lack thereof, there's just no energy there. There's just no sense of really wanting to have that nose for goal, nose for attack, get into the box, be in front of the goalkeeper, bother them, just be that pass, just go and be exactly what this team has been asked to do. If you look at the numbers, if you looked at that trend last year, the San Diego Sockers were asked to improve on the power play because they were on a downward trajectory. They came in this season, and that was a point of emphasis that this is going to be the team that's going to fix these issues. They cleaned it up, and I just don't see it. I see a lot of flat feet that are not in the zone when they need to be, and that's going to be exactly what's going to hamper this team. You can't just say, we're the San Diego Sockers, it's going to turn on at some point. We're going to turn it on in the fourth quarter, because we've seen the teams be smart to that and really take it to the Sockers and say, all right, cool, I'm going to piss you off. And what you're going to do, you're going to react, you're going to cost yourself. Self-implosion, self-destruction. We took care of it, and we're still going to laugh at you in your face. And that's what we're seeing from these teams who are smartening up. This is a strategy. This is a strategy that is being employed, and maybe not intentionally, but it's there. And it's paying dividends, and it's paying in other teams realizing this too, because it's not like these losses or these tough games have been dissimilar. They're very similar in how they break down. The effort of the Sockers at certain points in the third quarter kind of goes down. The intensity goes down, and that's when they hit. And that's when the opponents know, okay, they're going to go ahead and be vulnerable here. Let's go ahead and do some fouls. You know what? They're not going to score anyways. Our guy's going to be in the box for 2 minutes. Their important player now is going to be in the box for 5 minutes because they started mouthing off on somebody. They started mouthing off. Their bench is mouthing off. They're costing themselves. Let them beat themselves. And I think that's what it's been. Yes, the Comets got that win. Yes, the Outlaws almost got a win. But at the end of the day, it's the Sockers beating the Sockers. And that's just inexcusable if you want to go ahead and be that next level team that other institutions like Chihuahua and Monterey are right now.
There you go. Drop it. Absolutely beautiful. Well, listen, last thing on this as we move forward, you can make a change on the power play. Mm-hmm. Every coach knows those 5 spots are the most precious spots on the team. The 5 spots in the power play unit. And trust me when I tell you, it's a matter of status. It's a matter of ego. It's a matter of clout. Every one of the guys that is a scorer on this team believes they should be on the power play. And Escoto thinks he should be on the power play. Tavoy, Craig, Leo, Charlie, Costa, Felipe, keep going down the list. Drew, Serta, all of them think they should be on the power play. If this power play unit stinks, change the members. Change them. Switch it up. And you know how you do that? By drilling the bleep out of it and having an A unit and a B unit and a C unit and actually having them work together in practice, in training. You need that level of dedication to this aspect of the match because it's killing this team right now. And that's a place that a coaching staff can make changes. You can't change our defensive personnel group. Like, you can't do it. But you can make switches. You can pick out the guy on film when you do a dedicated film session, looking at all 27 missed power play opportunities and running through them all and stopping them and pointing out the issues. If you find the guy that you think did the worst in that group, hey, vote him out of the tribe, not off the team, but off the power play unit. You know, give his spot to somebody else that's going to execute the motions. Because what I'm really not seeing this year from this team is motions. It plays on the power play. We're not seeing where it goes here, but then this guy crashes, as Eddie was showing in his video. You know, ball goes left, but this man's moving right, and they know as the ball's going left, I'm making this cut. Where are the cuts? It's perimeter, 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 perimeter. And then occasionally, if it gets into Tavoy tries to make that quick pass out of the middle. But generally, it's just been going around the umbrella, down into the corner, around the umbrella again, try to get it to the middle, knocked out, cleared. That's what we've been seeing from this group. So if you don't like what you see, you know, as Bruce Bochy said, you know, if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you're getting. And if the Sockers want to keep down this path, they're going to continue to be a 1/4 of the time converting power play team.
And we say this because we care, Craig. It's not because
we want the team to win.
It's not because we're just asking them to do something impossible. We know the elements are there, the ingredients are there, but they need to go ahead and turn on the stove themselves. because it's not going to be any type of good cooking. It's just going to have a bunch of stuff lying around, and that's what we're getting. 2 minutes of bad play is really what's we're seeing here. Like, these 2 minutes are very frustrating. When I see a power play, I don't get excited anymore. I don't think, okay, this is going to be. I just think this is going to be another opportunity for them to keep adding and dropping in that percentage of conversion for power plays. That's unfortunately where my headspace is at, and it almost seems like the Sockers have that mental headspace as well. So you got to take that out. You got to go ahead and just forget about it. Forget about it, learn from it, but really move forward in being critical in these moments. And I mean, if you have those goals in those situations, I could think of so many games that could have gone so much smoother this season. You're really going to the playoffs based on the talent that you have. I can't say that the team aspect that the Sockers have had and have been incredibly dominant that have put them in this position. Individual talents and maybe one or two here connections with Ruggles and Craig, and you got Charlie and Escoto, and when Gabi was good, Gabi was healthy, he was on there contributing as well. But I don't see that, what you're saying, that team aspect where everybody's involved, everybody's moving, the confusion is there for the defense, and it's just 3 or 4 options for you to put that ball in the back of the net. You don't even have that because you're not taking the opportunities. You're not creating that chaos. You're waiting too much on the ball. Just shoot the ball. Just shoot it. It's going to go ahead and go more than likely where you're going to be placed at, because your placement is still good. The players are where they're supposed to be, but they're just not moving into better positions.
Well, listen, we're passionate for this team because we love this team. I've been around this team since 2009. I love this club. I've got 6 championship rings. I'm thrilled and blessed. If I never get another one in my life, I will forever thank the San Diego Sockers for what they've given me and my family. Trust me when I tell you that. If they never win another one in my lifetime and I live to be a ripe old age, I will always be thankful of the San Diego Sockers. But they could win the championship this year. They absolutely could win the championship this year. And all that we're looking for is for this team to put its absolute all into that. And I'm not questioning the player's heart or commitment. I am asking about this. Are we practicing the power play at the level and at the skill level and with the thought and intentionality that is needed to succeed? And I'm here to tell you the answer is no right now. Okay. And here's the last thing I want to say, because I want to move on. MASL news is coming. There's a lot of executives in the league that have been like, stop talking about the Sockers. I want to hear you talk about my team. Tony, I'm a huge fan of reality competition shows, reality TV, but especially reality competition shows.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that you need, there's skill sets that you need to succeed. And the number one is probably not clear to the naked eye. It's self-awareness.
Yeah.
You need to be self-aware. You need to always be able to recognize where you are in the game. Am I high? Am I low? Do I seem high, but I'm actually not that high? Who's really my friend and who's not really my friend? What are the power alliances and how are they changing? Being self-aware is the key to success because you understand where you are and where you need to be. I don't think the Sockers completely understand where they are and where they need to be right now. I think it's very, very easy to point at 14-3 and go, we're 14-3. Shut up. We're 14-3. We're great. We're going to win the Pacific. Who cares? But I want to win the championship. So that's why we're kind of coming down on this tonight. You can't change the defensive group. They've just got to play better. You can't change that there's no M2 this year. It's not going to change. It's on the player group that's here this year. Nothing to be done about it. You can change the power play. You can change this. You can work on it. You can make it the number one focus of the club. And if you focus on a detail that intently, you might be shocked at how many other details come into focus as a result of focusing on that detail. Okay, MASL news. Time's up, executives. You can focus in now.
That's yes. No, if I can just add just one last thing. I'm sorry, Craig.
One last thing. It's quite all right.
Whenever I didn't do my chores, Craig, my dad would tell me this. If you don't want me to keep reminding you and telling you and yelling at you to take out the trash, just shut my mouth up and take out the trash without me telling you.
Take out the trash.
Just take out the trash. Just do it. Too. At the end of the season, if it happens and this is worked on, you're going to shut my mouth up. And I will recognize that and I will applaud you for it because I love that. I love it when the work is put. Just take out the trash, take out the trash, take out the trash.
That's it. You muted yourself. You got so excited you put yourself on mute. Check you out, kid. Just muted yourself out of joy. Unmute yourself. You're gonna give everyone a heart attack. All right. MASL news. There you are. Thank God.
Yeah, we're good. My dad probably cut the cord.
Yeah, he said, "Take out the trash and shut the mic off. Go take out the trash." Monterrey finds themselves in a tie match on the road in the last minute of the fourth quarter again, and they score again, and they win again. And the Flash are now 17-0 this season, or are they 18-0? Hang on.
They are.
They're 18-0.
18-0.
They are 18-0. They are 6 wins away from the first 24-0 season in the history of the Major Arena Soccer League. If you thought this was a rough podcast on the Soccers, I want to offer, again, from the same statistical leaning, analytical mind, a note of positivity. Monterrey this year is 18-0. They are 8-0 in 1 and 2 goal matches. 8-0. They have found themselves over and over on the road, tied in the last minute of the fourth quarter. Twice in Milwaukee, going to overtime in a tie game. I am perfectly fine with Monterrey winning every 1 goal match all the way to the playoffs. Because that shoe drops, baby. The other shoe falls. And I will point to 2018-19 when our glorious Soccers, the 23-1 season, went 6-0 in golden goal overtime. And then guess what? They got to the playoffs and they got to golden goal overtime against the Monterrey Flash. And Vaca put it in. And the Soccers lost. And all of that 6-0 and winning every 1 goal game in the entire year, you lost the one that mattered, and that was the only thing that mattered. So Monterrey looks unbeatable. I am here to tell you, Monterrey is beatable. They have been in matches, and I don't rate the East as high as the West in terms of the top. They have been in matches on the road. They have been right there, ready for the taking, ripe for the taking. So I look at that as not a chink in the armor, but like you can see a path. It's being told that there is that one exhaust port in the Death Star that maybe is able to be aimed at that can get the missile home.
It is a wombat sized, or what was the animal that they described?
Yeah, I think wombat. I think you got it.
Yeah, it's a wombat sized hole that they have there. But again, it can also go the other way, where these are the matches that they can build on, and a true champion wins these scrappy 1 goal matches, and that gives them the impetus to move forward and say, yep, we went through the fire and did that. But I think to your point, right, there is those teams that are taking it to Monterrey that aren't Chihuahua, that aren't the Soccers, because Chihuahua was very early in their development and how they've turned it around. But overall, I think that, yeah, that luck eventually does run out, and that's just part of it, right? It's very difficult in any sport to see that undefeated season or just absolutely crushing number 1 seed team go into the playoffs, into La Liguilla, and keep that going because you've been doing it for so long. Everybody peaks at a different time, and if that's the case here in the playoffs, and they have already peaked Monterrey, then there is that window of opportunity, and hopefully it's the opposite fortune for the Soccers, where their trajectory is upwards. And if only there's a moment and window where they just put their defenses down and allow for that, then we're talking about some interesting matchups coming up here in the playoffs. And if that means it's all the way into the championship game, again, it's the one that matters.
Yeah, you got to get there. And that means getting through Chihuahua. It means getting through Texas or Tacoma. There's a lot of road to get there, but just the fact that they're having not just a great season, and believe me, they're having a great season, but they're having just a little bit of a charmed season too. And that charm, that Cinderella slipper, it sometimes slips off. So something to keep in mind, just a positive note to keep in mind if you are looking at this going, my God, we're struggling and there's an undefeated team on the other side. What are we going to do? Like, there's still something. The Comets. Okay, we just saw the Comets. The Comets had lost 9 out of 10. Obviously, they kicked our butts, but they did so without Leo Gibson and John Sosa. And without betraying anything or doing anything untoward, because soccer's overtime is the show of record of the MASL. To be clear, both of these players are listed on the active roster for the Kansas City. Look, there he is, number 14. Look, there he is, number 19. They're right there. They're on the website. What are you worried about? They're on the website. Well, they're not with the team. They're not actually with the team. John Sosa on his Facebook page a weekend ago put up a large, lengthy, wordy post. If you look for it, it's John Bayron Sosa, Bayron, John Bayron Sosa, saying goodbye to the Kansas City Comets, saying farewell to the organization that he has known and played for years. Of course, he did come out for a year to play for San Diego. In the 3 years that I was away with Gulls, he spent a year with the Sockers, might have been 2. I think it was just 1 year, because Kansas City's been his home, his family, everything, but not there. Leo Gibson has been the head coach of the team for the last several years, and Stefan Stokic was his assistant that was on the bench because he was a player head coach. Now, is he close to retirement? Yes, but we saw in some early season KC broadcasts them talking about the coaching staff working with Leo on his finishing, as if Leo Gibson had forgotten how to finish goals. And all of a sudden, both of these players are not there. And then in their last home match, Zach Reggett scored a goal, pulled out both of his shin guards, and he had written number 14 under one shin guard and number 19 under the other shin guard. So clearly there's been a power vacuum. There's been a struggle for control, perhaps. There were people in our chat yesterday, which we didn't have open during most of the match, but I saw a little bit of it later, saying that those were people, quote unquote, poisoning the locker room. You're a chatter on Twitch. I don't know who the hell you are, making accusations like that. These are great players. They're well-recognized players in Kansas City. The one thing I heard is that John Sosa could be traded.
Oh.
I don't think Leo Gibson is going anywhere. I think Leo Gibson, if he's going anywhere, it's retirement. But I heard John Sosa could be traded.
Yeah, just try to look up. I have not his friend on Facebook. Sorry, Greg.
Fair enough. You might need a request. Yeah. I don't know if I can share screen from over here. I could give it to you, but nonetheless, trust me when I tell you, because I saw it and I was like, oh, John Sosa, he must be hurt, or it must be over. I'm not in the Kansas City Comets gossip business out here in San Diego, but I was like, oh, okay. But I heard that he is available for trade. And I'm wondering if the Sockers should trade for John Sosa. Because if there's one thing John Sosa's great at, it's the power play. He's kind of a Childs of his own, except he's an assist master. He's a great set piece shooter as well. The equal or better, I don't know. Craig is as good as I've ever seen, but he's almost as good a set piece shooter as Craig Childs. He's even out. He's, I think, still second in the league in assists. John Sosa is not a defender. He's old. He plays defender. He's not a defender. He's old. He's a step slow. The Sockers have a defensive issue, and he wouldn't help them. If you play him, he's not going to help you defensively. I'm here to tell you that right now. But you know what the other two places are that make the most sense for a John Sosa landing spot in the MASL? Texas. There it is. My deepest regrets. I wanted to let you know I'm no longer part of the Comets organization. Found it on IG. 13 years
for the assist on that one.
With the Sockers, or 13 years with the Comets. The other two most obvious landing spots for John Sosa are Texas and Tacoma. And I think he would really help both of those teams. So I don't know. Susan says, don't we have enough old guys? Like, yeah. Yeah, no, we do. No, yeah. I agree. Would Sosa help this team defensively? No. And we just listed that as one of the key issues of need. But would he help on the power play? Yeah. Would that be political to trade for a guy and put him on the power play? Yeah. Should we worry about the politics when the team's 27%? Maybe not.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Bring in the competition. Why not?
I'd rather him here than be against us in Texas. Setting up the power play, setting up Mendez and Ortiz, even if Morales is hurt, like, he'd really help them. He might help them win a home game against us in the playoffs. Like, God forbid going to Chihuahua. I don't know. I don't think he'd go to Chihuahua, but I think Chihuahua's set the way they are. But you got to make a deal line up. But if you're looking for a way to shake things up and looking for a way to help the power play, even if you brought him in to help practice the power folks, we've hired our power play coach. His name is John Sosa. Welcome, John. I'm sorry, 19's unavailable. Escoto's got 19, but would you like to be 91? Come on in.
Yeah, and keep them away from everybody else, because again, it's not like the Sockers are very potent defenders on the power play as well, and they find themselves in power play situations more than likely this season, as discussed in the discipline section of today's re-education through Sockers.
It's just a thought. All right. He was here in the past, so Craig and Phil and Cheeky are going to have an opinion to begin with. I didn't run this by them. I'm not saying necessarily the Sockers should trade for John Sosa. I'm saying he's probably going to be traded.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be in the West. So even if it was a trade to just keep him from playing against you.
Exactly. If I can't have him, no one can. I guess we'll have him.
Something to consider going forward, because it's probably going to impact the division one way or another. So would you like it to be your direction? Wait and see. The one race of real interest in this league, other than seeding, right? There's seeding races. Utica or Milwaukee could finish second or finish third and pick up home field against the other in the first round of the playoffs. Same thing for Tacoma and Texas. Chihuahua's going to finish second. We've known that. Unless they finish first. Stay tuned for Soccer's news. Unless they finish first. But they're not going to finish lower than second this year. But, Texas or Tacoma could finish third or fourth. If you're interested in that, you're a fan of one of those two teams. The only real race of interest is who wins fourth in the East, Kansas City or Baltimore. And 3 weeks ago, it seemed completely obvious that it was going to be Kansas City. And then as recently as like 4:59 yesterday, it seemed like Baltimore was definitely going to finish fourth and Kansas City was going to fall out and finish fifth. The Comets might have saved their season getting all 3 points in San Diego. They have 5 matches remaining. And the next 4 involve, I believe, a Utica home match, playing Utica at home, a match that they blew earlier this year to start their losing streak, surrendered a multi-goal lead and lost. But they've also got St. Louis. They've got 4, I think, winnable matches between here and March 23rd when they play the Sockers
and they play the Sockers at Cable Dahmer Arena on the back end of an interstate back-to-back, because the Sockers will play Milwaukee the night before in Wisconsin. So not impossible for Kansas City to win out. There you see, that's the overall schedule. If you just click on Comets, you can get to Comets and then schedule. And hang on. Hold on. That's a match preview. Teams. Yeah, there we go. Comets, schedule. Teams. Or
Comet schedule.
How about all divisions? Click on that. This is great podcasting. For those of you listening on the podcast, don't worry. On the video, everyone can understand that we're navigating a drop-down menu.
Yeah, this is all divisions. Trying to look for Kansas City's matchups.
Look, just hit the hyperlink where it says Comets.
Cometas.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Click again. Just click Comets again. It'll get you there.
MASL.
It'll get you there. Just click where it says away Comets. Just click that. That'll take you to the Comets page. I promise you.
Ay, qué güey estoy ahorita, sir.
Okay, see where it says Toyota Arena? And to the left of that, Comet. Just click there. Yeah. Boom.
I was navigating an entirely different page.
Yeah. Now click schedule. See where it says schedule right there? Stats right. Yeah. We did it. There it is. Empire Wednesday. Winnable. Not a guarantee. Home to St. Louis. Home to Utica. At St. Louis. Casey's got to win through. They got to win all 4 of those matches and get the 12 points. That way the Sockers can beat them on the 23rd. And if they get to 12 points, then Baltimore will need 21 points out of their last 9 games to advance. Baltimore would have to go 7-2 through their last 9. If Casey wins out and beats us again, Baltimore would have to go 8-1. Now take a look. The next 4 matches for Baltimore. This is tough. Hosting Milwaukee, one of the better teams in the East. And then they've got a road trip through Utica, Chihuahua, and Monterey. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them potentially drop all 12 points in those 4 matches. If they do that, and Kansas City takes care of beating Empire and St. Louis alone, that'll take care of it. That'll put the Comets in the playoffs. If Baltimore digs any points out of that road trip, look out. Look out. Brad Crossley can ship the jersey out here to San Diego. There's a great chance I'll have to wear it on the playoff preview Sockers Overtime, because the rest of the schedule for Baltimore, Harrisburg drops back in there a couple of times. They're back at home. They've got Dallas at home. Like they've got, there you go. The back end of the schedule, home to Utica at the end, but Harrisburg, Dallas, at Texas. Okay. Could be tough, but hosting Harrisburg, they're going to easily pick up 3 of those games for sure. They could pick up 4. They've hammered Utica at home as recently as the last time, beat them by 7 goals. So it's going to be the next 2 weeks, I think, actually decide this. If Kansas City goes win, and then Baltimore goes loss, that probably decides this. It puts it all but away. Any more stumble? If Kansas City takes a dump in Empire, I'm actually going to be mad. I'm actually going to be mad. I will be pissed off if Wednesday night Empire goes out there and just smashes Kansas City. I'll be like, what? I will be more mad at the Sockers than I've been before. So I'm expecting Kansas City to beat Empire after what they did to us on Sunday. But so that's kind of how that one race now shakes out. It's as simple as, if it's 5-0 for Kansas City, then it's got to be 8-1 for Baltimore. If it's 4-1 for Kansas City, then it's got to be 7-2. If it's 3-2, then it's got to be 6-3. You can do the math. It's that straightforward in terms of how things are going to work out and pan out. But I don't think any of the other. I'm not worried, Kelsey. Like, I don't think Kansas City's coming for any of the top 3 spots. I think they're going to finish 4th one way or another, and it's just a matter of, can they hold off Baltimore, or is Baltimore going to catch them? And that's where that is. Last thing, is a goalkeeper hat trick really a thing when you throw the ball across a basketball court? I mean,
no. I think I shared my opinion on this. Those shouldn't even count as goals. Like, it's cool and all. You get it's a little point, but a hat trick, and then the parameters in which you play allow for that to even happen. I don't think that should be allowed. Personally,
I just think it's funny. That's all. I just wanted to say that. I mean, basically, just understand, anytime I get a chance to make fun of Baltimore playing on a basketball court, I will. Ta-da! Congrats to Mike Zierhofer. You got the award and Via con Dios. Like, I'm very happy for you. Okay. Marlisha is getting antsy, which is surprising because we've had all of this soccer's talk. But it's time to get to soccer's news. Now, first of all, I revealed our military kit. Here it is. Here it is. Military kit. So that's Sunday. That is Sunday. Our military kit, March 3rd. I think I gave you a graphic on this. These are going to be auctioned. The auction starts right after the show. I think it starts at 7 p.m. benefiting Navy League of San Diego. These will be game-worn, autographed jerseys, military night, jersey auction. We didn't actually have to take over the Comets colors because they beat us. This was a choice we made well before the match was decided. Well before, like at least by 3:30. So that's your military night jersey auction. That is Sunday. But Friday, Star Wars night. Let's do it.
Are you sure? I'm ready.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. We don't have a video. There it is. It's Yoda. It's Yoda, everybody. Yoda is this year's Star Wars night jersey auction. Yoda, like mad episode 2 Yoda, flipping around with a lightsaber, doing badass things.
Through the Senate.
Yeah.
That's when you found out. That's when you found out what the Yoda that trained Luke Skywalker we were dealing with.
Yeah, we were like, what, this crippled old Yoda thing? No. Dude can ball. People forget that Yoda's a bucket. So Yoda, who is a bucket, is going to be, and this is again game-worn, autographed jerseys benefiting Special Olympics of Southern California. Bid on it, you will, at LiveSource. So these are available for LiveSource auction, the LiveSource app. I believe, according to our great Spencer and our great Ezra, that the auction begins at 7:00. It may have already begun. You can download the LiveSource app or open the LiveSource app and check it out. But all of the kits will be available for auction until the end of the night of the respective matches, March 1st and March 3rd. And then they will be washed. They have begun, says Gabe. Perfect. So they are underway. You can go to the LiveSource app. You can put in those first bids. They'll be washed. They'll be autographed. They'll be sent to you, the actual kits that had been worn by the players and benefiting Special Olympics of Southern California, as well as benefiting sixth hour of being on the air. Navy League for these military kits. So 2 great LiveSource auctions. They are both underway. Here we go. What do you think?
I love the Star Wars kits to begin with, and it's about time you got some green lightsaber action on there too. I really do like the fact that this is available for the fans to really be in tune with a team in a different way, right? Like, and it's benefiting for a great cause, the Special Olympics of Southern California. And let me tell you, as I work with on my real job, we're not saying this isn't a real job. This is I can't believe this is a real job actually.
Yeah.
But I work with children, and this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. So get out there, even if it's not for the jersey itself, which is primo. I love me some Star Wars kits from the Soccers, but go for it. I really want to say that the Special Olympics is an incredible organization, just in general, just angels, and the salt of the earth, human beings there. So I'm really looking forward to that. Can I bid? Am I allowed to bid?
Yeah, absolutely. You can
Okay.
bid.
Okay.
Many times I have bid trying to catch the random like Christian Gutierrez or Sean Callahan jersey that's checking in at a low cost, and then I always get all outbid at the end, and it's always by either Cowboy or Gabe. So so sorry for driving up the price. And you guys, sorry, not sorry. Really, it's benefiting a good cause. So
Yeah.
it's all good. But there they are. Marlisha, sorry to make you wait. We had a lot to talk about. The team lost.
Yeah.
Like the team actually lost. So we had a lot to talk about.
I think somebody's telling the Soccers the odds. Never tell them the odds.
Right.
Or we could go another way. Do or do not. There is no try. Okay, I think we're at that point in the season for the Soccers. Do or do not. There is no try.
I'm just hearing from the folks. I got to open up my Live Source app on my phone because we don't have a picture of the Live Source. There it is. We don't have a picture of the goalkeeper kit, but apparently it is shown on the Live Source app. So I'm going to see if I can pull that up for you guys and at least throw it up on my camera here. This is always great stuff when you try and log into something live. Okay, I'm going to wait. I'll try and get that to you by the end.
Okay.
At some point, Tony will talk and I'll stop listening to him and I'll try and get this done.
It's made, Craig. And I think people like the sausage being made sometimes. And it gives a little context. We're human. You're human. Even though you're a absolute veteran of the game, it's incredible how, great you are at this and how this doesn't happen.
Beep, bop, boop, need oil. Beep, bop, boop, need new programming. Okay.
All right.
Paul Savage came to us on Sunday evening and laughed at how wrong we were with our injury report last week on the show. Yeah, just like every single one of you guys screwed up. You're wrong on all of them. So let's be wrong again. It appears everyone but Leo and Costa. Callahan's out for the year with a knee injury. It appears everyone but our two beautiful Brazilians will be back for Friday and hopefully Sunday against Empire and against Chihuahua. So there's your always wrong injury report. Let's hope it's right this time. Friday against Empire. To me, there's conflicting agendas at play here, Tony. On one side, and I saw it in the chat earlier, like this really needs to kind of be a blowout win for San Diego. You really want this to be one of those right the score games where they just kick Empire's ass, 11-3 or something, just really smack them. And if they get a couple goals at the end, so be it. On the other end, Sunday is the match that really matters next weekend. So the idea of, God forbid, Phil never does it, but like rotating the lineup, putting some young guys in against Empire and saving some veteran legs for Sunday. I think a lot of coaches would do that. The soccer seemingly never do that. Now that the shield is essentially out of reach, I would say it would make a lot of sense to do something like that Friday, but I just describe it as conflicting agendas. On one side, you want to find your form, and on the other side, you want to keep your fitness and health for Sunday.
Yeah, and that's a tricky thing about this point in the season is always the phrase "health is wealth." Like, yeah, it really is true because if the healthiest team usually is the one that wins out in the championship situation. So if that's something that you're aiming for, then again, be smart with your load management. And again, that's usually not a way that the soccer's way, because it's always go, win, regardless of who it is. And at the end of it, everybody's relatively healthy, but it's not the situation here. So Chihuahua Savage, that game is one that's being circled. Like, I know the players want that. This last time here at home, they were waiting for him. They were salivating for Chihuahua to get another chance at him. And it developed like how it developed. They went away, and the players were very inspired. They had just gotten off some team building exercises on the road. Craig Childs was there. We spoke to him right before. Everybody was locked and loaded. We saw what happened that time. Is the San Diego Sockers prepared to face a reality where they are not prepared for the Chihuahua Savage and get run off the field once again? I hope not, but that's a reality that can happen here. But it's managing those expectations at this point and just going out for the bigger picture. What is the greater good here? And I think that overall, if it's wanting that Ron Newman Cup, then just be smart about it. Just be smart about it and don't overcommit at times. And if that's the case, then you go by that. You live and die by that sword or lightsaber.
Yeah, sometimes a little focused goal can help a team to get through a tunnel to a bigger picture. And I would go into Friday with a focused goal as a Sockers side of ending Marco Fabian's goal scoring streak in the MASL. Yeah. He's scored a goal in every match in the MASL. And you know what? Almost every single one of them has been the same way. It's been on a power play, or it's been a ball from the high middle. It's been, he's not like breaking guys down and beating 3 guys off the dribble and coming in and roofing one. So like, if you just specifically locked down Marco Fabian and showed that you can do that you can take a player and go boop, circle, scratch, erase them out of the team. That's a skill you need to repeat going forward. Whether it's a Puentes for Chihuahua, or whether it's a Torres for Monterrey, or whether it's a Pereira, right? A Morales, if he ever gets back healthy from his knee situation. So that would be a specific thing. Yes, obviously, practice the power. I don't even care about results. Practice the power play, every practice between here and the weekend, and then lock down Marco Fabian and keep him from scoring on Friday. The other way he scores is power plays. So be disciplined, right? That can lead you to another great thing. You don't want to let Marco score? Be disciplined. Don't give up dumb penalties. Don't give them a chance for Fabian to creep one in. And then listen, if he scored at the end on the 6v5, what are you going to do? Right. But that would be a great, cool goal that could maybe help unlock Friday. Then you get to Sunday, and look, Sunday is the last chance to dance against Chihuahua. If you lose to Chihuahua twice at home, 2 things are going to happen. First off, everyone's going to rank you under them the rest of the year, and you have nothing you can say. You have absolutely nothing you can say. What did I say about self-awareness being a key to strength? The Sockers will have to be self-aware and say, we're not as good as Chihuahua. If they lose to Chihuahua again, they're going to have to say, we're not there. So hard look in the mirror. What do we need to do to get to their level, the level of the champions? Because we're not there yet. That's what happens if you lose. If you win, you pretty much lock up the division. You pretty much lock up having the same circumstance for the next playoff, and you put the fear back in Chihuahua. This is something we have heard, and we have heard Oscar Sanchez say as well down there, the reporter in Mexico, that Chihuahua no longer fears the Sockers, that they were afraid of playing us even last year, saying, well, yeah, even if we win at home, we can't win in San Diego. We've never won in San Diego. Now they beat us by 4 in San Diego, held us to 1 goal on our home floor, shut us out for 57 minutes on our home floor. So Chihuahua has the confidence now that they can beat us anywhere, anyhow, anytime. San Diego needs to regain just a seed of doubt, that mustard seed that could sprout inside the minds of Chihuahua that, we still have to come back here. And these guys aren't going to go away. These guys are going to be really hard on us, and we might not win that match. That needs to happen. So obviously Sunday, critical for San Diego. But it's also critical for Chihuahua, gang, because the Savage have 2 matches in hand on San Diego. So take a look at those standings. They're BS. It says that the Sockers have an 11-point lead. Their true lead is 5. Chihuahua hasn't lost to a team not named Monterrey all year. So add 6 more points for the 2 games that they make up, and you pop them up to 35 points. Now, Chihuahua comes in and takes all 3 in San Diego. It's 38 points. You're 2 points ahead of the other team. And that leaves you literally no margin for error the rest of the year. It's regulation wins in every other match to secure the Pacific Division. So Kelsey's actually right. I've got another show and you've got another show. We've got shows.
Yeah.
We've got shows. But that's what's at stake this weekend. That's what's at stake is win. It's pretty much over the Pacific. Lose. It's very much in doubt. You've got those matches at Milwaukee. You've got that match at Kansas City. You have to sweep that to guarantee the Pacific.
Yeah, and it's a really tone setter coming up here where much like Chihuahua had that belief that they would face Monterrey now with Giannoni Martinez and have the fortunes be different and have the team to take it to them. The Sockers are in that similar situation where they have to have the belief that it was no fluke, but we have that capacity, the capability to really take it to Chihuahua, who have honestly punched the bully in the mouth. If San Diego Sockers was the bully for years, they were afraid to even show up. San Diego got punched in the mouth and was taught a lesson. And hopefully that lesson is, okay, we need to adjust some things and we need to change. The same thing can't be happening. We can't just be closed-minded. We have to explore our options, and maybe it's a different play style. Maybe it's a different tactic that we take. But either way, it's going to be a really good match. It's a fantastic matchup on paper, and it's going to be a good match that Sunday.
Friday, 7:35, Sockers and Empire Star Wars night, glowing Bam Bam sticks, Star Wars kits. And yes, to answer Jonas Jaco's question, both Friday Star Wars kits and Sunday military kits will be available for sale at the merchandise stand, not game worn, not player numbered, etc., but they will be available to be purchased as well. So Friday, Sockers and Empire, Sunday, Sockers and Chihuahua. And it's going to be a big one, folks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Should be a good one. 5:05 for that kickoff on Sunday the 3rd. And that puts a little bow on the end of Soccer. Thank you so much. We're going to both make it to our respective shows. I might even get to have a tea break in between and change the banner from Sockers to Padres. I think I'm going to make those changes. Hey, want to let you know it's not that people said no. The Sockers can react to a loss differently than you think. Greg Giles hosted a barbecue for the team today. They had the players over at his house and their families. Another kind of team building and bonding instead of analysis. So we were all here under the dark clouds doing the analysis on the show. Hopefully we weren't on their big screen as they're enjoying barbecue and friendship and getting back together for everything. But appreciate everybody who's been with us for an extended edition of the show. And Tony, let everyone know what's going on with you.
Yeah, you can go ahead and find me and everything I do over at _Tony Sanchez. That is _Tony Sanchez or San Diego's football. Everything's from Gold Cup action to SDFC, and we're finding out what's happening. And that's happening here in about an hour. Craig?
You can follow me on Twitter at 619 Sports. You can follow me on Instagram at 619 Sports and Life. You will definitely see pictures of me at soccer stadia and with my dog. Those are two things you can be guaranteed to find on my Instagram feed. And we thank everybody for watching us. We will join you again next Tuesday with Soccer's Overtime. We will talk to you Friday on Twitch. Until then, have a great rest of your week. We'll see you at Pechanga Arena. Take care and go Sockers.